this is the Unit 2 test review for the medium questions for Math 980. And I'm going to start with question number 1, which says the sales tax rate in New York City is 8.4%. Find the tax charged on a purchase of $280 and the total cost. So I made this a medium question because they want you to split it up into 2 different parts. If they only wanted the total, you could have used the multiplier. For the tax, it would be 0.084, and then add the 1 for the total, for the original price. So it would be 1.084. But in this case, they want you to break it into 2 pieces. So the tax is going to be 0.084 times 280, which in this case equals 2352. And then to find the total, you're going to add the tax to the original purchase. So you get 303.52. Question number 8 is the next one. And it gave us this chart of values. It says determine if the data in the table shows a linear or exponential pattern and write a function that models the data. So what you want to do is you want to figure out what's causing this number on y to make this movement. Am I multiplying something in order to get from one number to the next, or am I adding or subtracting something? So to go from 3 to -5, that would be -8. I would add -8 to get down to -5. Add another -8, or I could say subtract 8, subtract 8, subtract 8. So in each case, we are subtracting 8. So that means that would be linear because it's addition or subtraction instead of multiplication or division. Then they want us to write the equation. And what we know about the equation is we have a y equals something x plus something. So these 2 somethings are the pieces that you have to figure out. The rest is standard. So what goes next to the x is what that movement was. So in our case, it was -8. That's what I was subtracting each time, was 8. So I put a -8 next to my x. And then the last number is what your first y value was. So in my case, it was a 3. So this would be my equation. Y equals -8x plus 3. Question 9 jumps to doing an average salary, okay? So you have 1 person that has this salary, 5 people have this one, 3 have that one, 1 has that one. So you could just write these out, right? Or do it in your calculator, 26,800 plus 18,200 plus 18,200 plus 18,200 plus 18,200 plus 18,200. So do 5 of those, and then 3 of those and 1 of those, and then divide by how many numbers that was. It was 10 if you add these up. Or, you can break it down and do it in pieces. But ultimately, it's got to look something like this. So you have the 26,800 plus 5 of these 18,200s plus 3 of these 15,600 plus 11,000. And whatever that answer is, you're going to divide by how many there were. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's how you calculate that. So for this question, my answer ended up being 17,560. So you could try it and see if you get that answer. Then you know you're on track, or you can just do your problem. All right, I'm going to move to question number 12, which gives me this list. I hate this question because of the decimals. So it makes it very time consuming to type in all of these numbers with decimals. So the first question, they want us to find the mean. So we're just going to add them all and then divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So in my case, I got $41.58. To find the median, you would want to put these in order. So my smallest number is 36.21, and then 38.63, and then 39.53, and then 42.25, 43.97, and finally 48.88. So I have 6 numbers, so I don't have a middle number. In that case, I need to take my 2 middle numbers, add them up, and divide by 2. So I'm going to find the average of the 2 middle numbers, and my answer ended up being $40.89. And the mode, well, I put them in order and there was not a single one that was repeated. So in this case, then there is no mode. All right, let's move on to question number 17 right here, which looks really complicated because they're using K's and fractions and whatever, but it's really not as bad as it looks. So I'm going to combine like terms. I have a K there, a K there, and a K there. In my calculator, I could do 14 fraction 9 minus 2 plus 2 fraction 9 equals, and I'll get minus 2 fraction 9. And those were K terms, so my answer has a K in it. And then I'm going to look at my constant terms. So all of these guys are what we call constant because they do not have a letter next to them. So in my calculator, I can do 11 fraction 9 plus 2 fraction 9 minus 5. And I will get negative 32 fraction 9. Now, you might get a mixed number, right? Like 3 and 5/9. You can convert that to an improper fraction by hitting the second button and then the ABC, because up above ABC it converts from mixed to improper, and then hit enter and it will change it to the improper fraction. Let's move on to question 19, which starts off with this polynomial. So we're first going to simplify it. My only 2 like terms are the x to the 5th. So I could add 1/8 plus 1/2 on my calculator, and I would get 5/8. So I get 5/8 x to the 5th. Nothing else is a like term, so minus 5x minus 15. Then they say, what is the degree of the polynomial? Well, it's always going to be the degree of the highest degree term. So x to the 5th is bigger than x to the 1 or x to the 0. So that is also the degree of my polynomial. So my degree is 5. And then they say, what type of polynomial is it? Is it a monomial, a binomial, a trinomial, or none of these? And because I have 3 terms, this is a trinomial. So you do have to simplify first before you can tell them what kind of polynomial it is. Question 23 is a story problem, but if you familiarize yourself with it, it's really not bad at all. It gives this formula, C equals dA over A plus 12. D stands for the dosage, the adult dosage, which mine was 1800 milligrams. And then A stands for the child's age, which my child was 8 years old. So what's weird about it is that A appears twice, but that's okay. So for my D, I'm going to put 1800, and I like to put parentheses where I had a variable, a letter. And then 8 was the age over 8 plus 12. So I would multiply. Now you can't cancel these, okay, so don't try to do that because this is addition and that's what prevents you from doing that. So 1800 times 8 is something. 8 plus 12 is 20. 1800 times 8 is 14,400. And then divided by 20 gives me 720. So that is my answer to that question. So it's really not that bad if you practice it a couple times. And then question 24 has this formula that converts Fahrenheit degrees to Celsius. And they give me a Fahrenheit temperature of 95. So I'm going to put 95 in for F. So I'm going to go C equals 5/9 times 95. Now, typically I would put parentheses around it, but there's already some parentheses there, so that would be a little bit like overwhelming to look at. So you can just do it like that. We're going to work inside the parentheses first. So 95 minus 32 gives me 63. So I get 5/9 times 63. So I can times 63 by 5 fraction 9, right? Which ends up giving me 35 degrees Celsius. Let's see. So that was question 24. I'm going to erase the board and then do the last 3 questions. So let's see. The next question is 27. (27) has 5x squared plus 6x minus 5 plus negative 9x squared plus 4x plus 3. And they're asking me to add the polynomials. Okay, so the first thing I do is I check what's in front of each set of parentheses. There's nothing here that would need to be distributed. So therefore I could drop the parentheses altogether. So plus a negative would be minus 9x squared plus 4x plus 3. And now I can put my like terms together. So 5 minus 9 is negative 4x squared. 6 plus 4 is plus 10x. And then negative 5 plus 3 is minus 2. So that is my answer. And I wanted to show you that next to question 28. And I know I did this on the lecture as well, but it's nice to reiterate it. So 9x squared minus 10x plus 10 minus 8x squared minus 9x plus 7. So what's important to know here is, well, there's nothing in front of this parentheses to distribute, but having a minus sign in front of this one is like having plus negative 1, which means I would use the distributive property to distribute that negative 1 in order to drop my parentheses. So I'm going to write 9x squared minus 10x plus 10. Negative 1 times 8 is minus 8x squared. Negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9x. Negative 1 times 7 is minus 7. And now I would combine my like terms. 9 minus 8 is just 1x squared. Negative 10 plus 9 is minus 1x. And then 10 minus 7 is plus 3. So that would be the answer for that one. The last question on this medium section is question number 30. And this one looks hard, but it's not that bad if you just kind of break it into smaller pieces. So I have 3/5 p times 10 minus 4p plus 9p to the 3rd power. Okay, and they want you to distribute this, right? And what makes it hard is that there's a fraction, but you can use your calculator for that. I would personally distribute it, write my answer out, and then match that to one of the multiple choice answers, because it's easy to look at all the answers and miss something small and then accidentally pick the wrong one. Okay, so when I distribute this, I'm going to go 3/5 times 10. You could do that on your calculator, and you'll get 6, and then there's a p there, right? Then I'm going to go 3/5 times negative 4. A positive times a negative will give me a negative. So right off the bat, you could eliminate 2 of the answers, because only 2 of them started with a 6p and then a minus. But anyway, in your calculator, you could do 3 fraction 5 times negative 4, and you'll get minus 12/5 p. It was a p times p, so that's 2 of those p's, right? P squared. And then, so now really there's only one of the multiple choice that starts with these two terms. But just for, you know, completion's sake, let's go ahead and do the last one. 3 fraction 5 times 9 would be plus 27 over 5. P to the 1 times P to the 3 is P to the 4. And so that is the correct answer. And this concludes the medium section, or the medium questions from the Unit 2 test review.